Now boarding our first class Ultra Gold passengers. Welcome into Other People's Shoes, the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey through the lives of others, where empathy knows no bounds. Your host, Neil Matthews, is absolutely thrilled that you're here. Please take your seat as we're about to take flight into season 16. Be sure to hold on tight, because Take Flight isn't just about the skies above. It's about the depths within. We'll dive headfirst into the stories of those who faced turbulence and yet found the strength to rise above it all. So grab your headphones and get ready to soar with us as we launch into season 16. Thank you for flying with us. Buckle up and let's take flight.
That is right. Let's take flight today. Let's take our journeys and skyward into the wild blue yonder as we make our way into the metropolis of Akron, Ohio. That's right. OHIO spells Ohio. Now, here's the caveat. As we were in pre-flight, we did have a little bit of a delay to our departure from the beautiful city of Medford, Oregon. What happened was getting on the plane, we found our seat, we got buckled, and undoubtedly there's the guy that comes and says, I think you're in my seat. And you're sitting in the window and you're like, nobody, I specifically bought 37A for the reason of the window. And he's like, no, listen, you need to move. That's my seat. And you're like, no, this is mine. And then you start getting into this debate over who's the better college basketball team. That's how fast the conversation can sometimes escalate. And our guest today, even though he hails from the Buckeye State, he did tell me pre-flight, and it almost ended our flight so quickly. He said that he roots for the team that I shall not mention is about 8 miles down the road from my beloved Tar Heels. Help me welcome in my new friend, Maurice. Maurice, how are you today?
Hey, the fact that you called me a friend even after our rough patch tells me we're in a good place. I'm doing well.
Well, my mama taught me to be polite.
Mama
when
did a good
somebody
job.
comes into the home, you still got to be polite, even though they're wearing the hideous and the gross and the disgusting. I don't know what else to say. I ran out of adjectives there.
I'm sorry. I grew up in Ohio and I was an all Ohio guy. It was the Indians. And let's be clear. Let's be very clear. That's probably why I became a fan of that team that will not be mentioned. Growing up as an Ohio guy, so I was an Indians fan. So I had to watch them lose in the bottom of the ninth inning of Game 7 of the World Series. I was a Browns fan. I had to watch the drive and the fumble and every other terrible thing that happened as a Browns fan. As a Cavs fan until 2016, there was nothing to root for. I think it was 1992, and I was about 8 years old, and I watched that unmentionable team win a national title, and I was like, I kind of like these guys. And the fact that everybody hated them for some reason made me like them more. College football, I'm an OSU guy, which apparently you also have a problem with. And so it's hard for me to defend any of the teams that I like because they're all real hard to defend. So that's all I can say about that to start this interview.
Well, I appreciate your candor. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it here. It was nice to meet you. I wish you well in your endeavors. So we are recording straight in from the Shoe Shack. Just want to remind people we are officially now in the Shoe Shack. I've teased a lot of people at church and people in my sphere. They say, hey, how's the house construction going along? I was like, what are you talking about? My house is done. I'm good. I mean, I got some shaky electricity. It's fine, though. We got heat. We got lights. Computer works. We're good. My wife's, you're asking about my wife's house. Oh, yeah, it's still coming along.
Oh, her house has some progress that needs to be made.
Yeah, the progress bar is still going across. It's not done yet. It's still going across the screen. She was so excited yesterday. We finally got some paint on the inside of the house, so it's kind of starting to take shape now for her. I got to be honest with you. I think she was more excited about seeing the paint than she was me coming home.
Oh.
I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, that's
if you
hard.
know a guy or know a friend that maybe could assist with that.
Absolutely. Shoulder to cry on is what it sounds like you need at this point.
Well, yeah, because your boy Pilipowski is apparently crying these days because he got mauled at Wake Forest. So anyway, I press forward because the big game coming up on this Saturday. So if you want to tune in March 9th, my beloved Tar Heels will travel 8 miles down the road to this place called Cameron Indoor. Apparently somebody urinated on it back in November, so they're still trying to clean that up. That'll take place at 3:30 Pacific time. So mark your calendar now, March 9th. So you know where I'll be, right here in the Shoe Shack.
And I know what you'll be wearing, what colors you'll be wearing at that time.
I mean, probably a good guess. Yeah. So on to you, because I'm sure people didn't want to come and hear us banter about sports all day long, even though I could do it. You know, you've been in interviews and you've kind of traveled around and you're kind of a speaker and you do these type of events, which sounds exciting. I can't wait to dig into that. In those travels and in those interview times, has anyone ever asked you this question? What size shoes do you wear?
Never. And honestly, they're always disappointed if they would have. One of the things when you're a speaker is people watch videos of you and things, they develop this persona in their head. So when they watch 5'6" me walk into a room with my size 9s, oh, you're little. This is not starting well. I just thought you were bigger. Like in my head, I just thought you were bigger. This is not a moment that I'm enjoying. I'm actually thankful people don't ever ask me that question because it would take away the mystery more often.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's kind of awkward to ask that question, but of course we ask it so we can visually kind of put ourselves in your shoe state. Now, my favorite question is brand and style. Now, some have gone into great in-depth and adjective, sought out thesaurus. They've even gone to maybe Chat GTP and said best shoe description for Neil when I come on the show. Help us with that.
You know what? If you see me in a good shoe, it's going to actually be a size 9 dress boot. I can wear different things, but I love to have a dressed up boot or a dressed up shoe. I'm loving boots more and more the older I get. Not necessarily cowboy boots, but like more like a dress boot to where when you first see it, you don't know if it's a dress shoe or not. And then when the pant leg lifts up, you're like, oh, that's a high quality, high boot. That's what I like to wear.
Well, I was going to offer to send some Jordans your way, or maybe some Christian Laettners, some Aaron Laettners. Oh, they don't make those.
When he did that spin around and hit that big shot, jumped right out of his shoes when he hit that shot. Shoes were irrelevant in that moment. Christian Laettner don't need shoes.
Kind of like Zion a couple of years ago. Oh, Snapple bottle caps.
Well, by the time Zion came, I was starting to get off the Duke bandwagon.
I think once you're on it, you never get off. Just saying. The devil went down to Georgia looking for a soul to steal. Johnny put him back in his place. Just saying. So we're in this series, the second half, if you will, of it. We've reached that point, second half of our flight series. And that's this idea of taking flight. Now, I got to be honest with you. Your publicist sent us some stuff and some other people sent us some stuff. Okay. And I kind of just let it sit in the inbox. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, one day I was like, let's revisit that. And there was a lot of intrigue on my part. Fascinated by someone's story because, again, I think you have one of those stories when you talk about it and you share about it. I think people need to know about it. And that's this idea of, again, taking flight. So for you, when you think of take flight, what comes to mind for you?
I think of purpose. One of the beautiful things in life is that when you get a chance to see a person walk in their God-given purpose, literally see them take flight. And they're not flying like Superman or a superhero. They're in a jet and other people are in the plane, are in the aircraft. What do I mean by that? When you get into purpose, you affect the lives of more than just yourself. It's the people closest to you, your family, your closest friends. It's also the people that you are put on the earth to serve. And so when I think of taking flight for myself in my own life, I realize that after I got through the hardest turbulence of my life, I've looked around and realized that this flight was for more than me and that I was put on this earth to help people even through my own story.
So when you talk about that, and you talk about almost the way you're describing it, I'm almost thinking of a private jet. By the way, I've never been on one. I've seen them. Seen them. I've heard they're cool.
Yeah.
I've read books where people are on them and they sound fun and they sound exciting. I mean, the Iron Man, the first one, Tony Stark's on a private jet. I mean, that seems fun and exciting. You talk about the turbulence of life and how to navigate that. What was that turbulence?
Well, the turbulence for me started early on in life. Today, I'm a 40-year-old man. And so when I talk about my childhood, I talk about it differently now than I did when I was a child. Back then, I would have told you I had a normal childhood. I grew up with a mom and a stepdad that were loving parents. They were strict, but they did the best they could. And I got into college, and I remember one of the stories I often tell is I'm sitting in front of a therapist. I'm a freshman in college at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. The therapist is asking me a bunch of questions that I don't understand why she's asking me them, and she stops me. And she says, Maurice, can I ask you a question? I said, no problem. She said, you're telling me stories about your life, and you're using words like love, discipline, and all these other words. I'm hearing you tell stories of abuse. I'm hearing stories of trauma. When are you going to get more honest with yourself about what you've really been through in your life? After that day, which I was about 18 then, I spent the next several years of my life relearning what my childhood really was. Thinking about the times when I was told what I could never do, what I would never become, what I would always screw up, how I was always going to mess things up. And I realized that a lot of the things that I dealt with during my childhood, including some of the domestic violence that I witnessed and other things that I saw and experienced, that those things had affected my mindset. They had affected my mentality. They had affected how I carried myself. They affected what I thought my potential was, how I let people treat me. They affected every part of my life. That journey where I've realized that sometimes I was going through turbulence that I didn't know it was turbulence because I was born in the airplane. When it's your airplane, it's just life. And you don't know that it's something extra wrong or that there's a major problem. That was really a lot of my journey.
I think there's so many times where something happens to us personally. I think I'm the only one battling this. I'm the only one going through this.
Absolutely.
I'm the only one that's experienced this. I know you podcast as well. It's amazing to me as I've gone through this podcast journey now, almost 5 years, that I start to discover that, wait a second, I'm not alone in that.
It's not just me.
I'm not the only one that happened to. And again, listen, my childhood was not that traumatic. I didn't have the physical abuse. I didn't have the neglect. We always had food on the table. Were mom and dad there at every sporting event or everything? No. The reality is they still, at the end of the day, tried their very best to love us the way they knew how to love us. But I discovered too, much like you, sounds like as an adult, I started to discover through counseling and through other folks that, wait a second, mom was broken. Dad was broken. They come together and they make brokenness kind of a thing, using your analogy of the airplane. Like we're on this airplane that's rickety and broken and we're like trying to fly and trying to get off the ground. We're like, why is it we can never really take off and soar? And really feels like we get a little bit of momentum and then we like crash again. It just seemed like, again, not bashing on mom and dad because I think they did a great job for what they knew how to do. It's just hard sometimes. I thought I was alone in that. I thought I was alone, standing in the corner, sitting in the corner. Wait, I'm the only one that had this happen to them. And then you start meeting other people outside of your sphere of Oregon or wherever. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm not alone in that. Talk about that for you. Has that happened to you? Have you encountered those type of relationships? And if so, maybe share about that.
It's interesting. Yeah, I completely agree that there's these parts of your life where you experience emotions. When I think back to my life, I was experiencing depressed feelings, anxious feelings, a lot of that as a child. And I didn't know that that's what it was. I didn't know that that's why I felt so, here's the word, heavy. That's why your plane doesn't eventually take off, is you got heaviness that's really pulling you down. I felt heaviness at 4 and 5 years old and didn't know what it was. There was definitely some moments in my 20s of looking around and seeing people that seemed like they were all happy and wondering why it is that I was so heavy when they were happy. And I thought it was just me. When I really started to change my life, which started to really happen around 2016, that's when everything shifted for me. From that point, I started realizing that most people that you are surrounded by feel just like you, but it's not a normalized thing for us to talk about feelings and emotions and thoughts. It's not really normal for us to talk about the heaviness of life. And when you really start to unpack these things and get more honest with the things, you realize it's not always about trauma for everybody. It's not always about abuse for everybody. But it is about how many of us as human beings were never taught how to deal with disappointment, how to deal with failure, how to deal with heartbreak. We were taught, suck it up and get over it. The reality is, suck it up and getting over it, you then carry the dead weight that you've never processed. Think about it like food. So if you eat a bunch of food and you don't process the food on the inside, it sticks in your belly, it sticks in every other part of you, and you carry on that weight. It affects your joints, it affects your heart, it affects everything about you. Well, the same is true of your emotions. If you go through heavy or hard times and you don't work through it or talk about it or deal with it, you start to carry those events with you through life. And at that point, it doesn't matter how deep the trauma is or how big the tragedy is, because it's dead weight you're not supposed to carry in one way or another.
You know, I love what you're saying there. It almost makes me think of when you check your bag at the airport. They offer sometimes, hey, we'll check your bag for you for a fee, $50 generally. But then undoubtedly, it seems like if you don't check your bag, they're like, hey, as a courtesy, we'll check your bag to the final destination. So I'm like, what about the $50 I just paid? What?
Right.
Now all of a sudden it's free because you want to do it as a courtesy for me. It's amazing to me too, when I've checked bags and I finally get to that destination. I mean, there is a weightness that kind of frees me. It's like, okay, my bag's there. It's going to be there before I even get there. It's fine. It's good. I don't think about it until I get off the airplane. And then I'm like, well, where's my bag? Did it show up? Did it get here? For a moment in time,
yes,
I forget about the baggage that I've been carrying.
Come on.
And then immediately afterwards, you're like, oh, well, here it is again. Here's the baggage. Let me go grab it from luggage claim with all the other schlups that have schlupped over there to to get their stuff. And it's like we forget about the baggage in our life for moments in our life. What I'm hearing you say is you hit a point where you started to say, you know what? I don't have to carry that baggage anymore. I don't have to go schlep over to baggage claim and go claim it again. That somehow you have found a way to break free from the baggage of the past. What's the secret to that for you?
You have to unpack the bags. You have to face what's inside of the luggage. And so what happens is it's kind of like, imagine that you were a serial traveler. You're just always traveling. And because you're always traveling, you don't really have time from spot to spot to go through the bag. So you just throw everything in the bag, you keep it nice and neat, and you move with it. If you really travel a lot, you're eventually going to have bags with wheels. So the bag feels like less and less of a burden because it's on wheels and you've fine-tuned the art of traveling. All right, now picture this. You get to a destination and you go, okay, you know what? I'm going to really take some time. I'm going to look through my bags and I'm going to figure out, do I really need everything that's in these bags, or have I just been carrying some stuff unnecessarily? And you start looking through your bags and you realize there's things in here I'm carrying that I don't wear anymore. I've just been bringing them out of principle. They're weighing me down. They may be taking away space for other things that I need. Maybe I would want to buy some other things in other cities, but I never have room in my luggage because my luggage is too full. So the greatest thing I can do is get rid of some stuff from those bags. So in life, what we're really saying is sometimes you got to sit down and ask yourself, what are the things that I've carried with me through my life that are no longer serving me? Sometimes there's some attitudes, sometimes it's behaviors, memories, whatever it is. I'm carrying it, but I don't need it anymore. By the way, sometimes that's people too, and that's a hard thing to say. Sometimes the relationship you had in another season isn't the relationship you'll need to have in this one. You asked me a question in the last question. You said, how do I feel seeing other people going through the process? I have realized that I've been meeting people who needed me and that I needed that I didn't have room for. It happened to me in my 20s. People who offered help, people who wanted to give me support, people who wanted to have my back, people who had wisdom, and I didn't have room for them because I was carrying too much torment and tragedy. And then I got into my 30s and I met good people and I didn't have room for them because I was dealing with too much. Now I do everything that I can to let go of what is weighing me down so that I can make the most of every moment God gives me today. I don't want to miss out on new wisdom, new emotions, new lessons, new anything good. And I think that that's the question you have to ask yourself. What is your opportunity in this season of your life?
I'll never forget. We flew one time, my family and I, and our bag was overweight. And I remember, and I'm sure people have done this, they start unpacking the bag in front of everybody. Okay, what do I take out to be of weight? And it's like, well, how do you decide? Okay, I don't need Aunt Susie anymore. Okay, I don't need Uncle Bob anymore. Okay, I don't need maybe my dad anymore. Okay, maybe my mom's a little too much. My sisters, let's be honest, they're a lot. My brother, who knows where he is? And I'm just using examples. So family, calm yourself. Step back. What I'm hearing you say even is sometimes you have to get to a point of saying, I can't carry you anymore.
Or at least I can't carry the way I've carried you. That I've learned that there are some people in this season of my life, this part of my life, they get all of me. My wife, my kids, my best friends, they get all of me. They get my time and my attention. They get all of it. Some people get my prayers. They don't necessarily get all of my time and energy. I can't really expend some of what I used to with them. I think of them from time to time. I check on them from time to time. I pray for them. They just don't get the same boundaries and the same access to me that they used to have. I don't think that there's anybody that you don't pray for, wish good on. You just have to find where people fit into your life. And that's not an easy thing, but it's a necessary thing. I think that sometimes we do people a disservice. Think of it the opposite of what I just described. There's someone who's been going through a lot of hard times. And over the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, they turn to you and you help solve their problems. And because you're always solving their problems, they've never learned how to solve their problems. So perhaps you making room gives them an opportunity to grow. That's the hard lesson.
I found this quote in an amazing book that I read many years ago, and I reread it when we were starting the shack construction. Maybe that's where I stole a little bit of the name from, the shoe shack. I think this book, The Shack, really revolutionized my world, my even view of Christ and the Bible and everything. I know people throw rocks at it. Listen, fine, throw your rocks. I'm not one of those that are throwing rocks. There's this quote in there, and it just speaks to me. I wanted to share this with you. It's actually on our website. It says, pain has a way of clipping our wings and keeping us from being able to fly. And if left unresolved, you can almost forget you were ever created to fly in the first place. When you hear that, what comes to mind for you?
My life. I think that I was convinced that I wasn't meant to be in the air. You almost have to acknowledge in life that we can feel opposite feelings and both feelings can exist and be valid. I remember the frustration of feeling like I was born to fly and I couldn't figure out how, and also feeling I was never meant to fly and that even if the wings grew back, it would never happen for me, or if the wings were unclipped or however you want to say it. So I remember like the battle that went on the inside of me. I'm meant to fly. I'll never fly. I'm meant to fly. I'll never fly. I'm meant to fly. I'm never fly. The healing that has gone on in my mind and in my heart, that healing process is what taught me I'm meant to fly. I was born to fly, and I'll do my life a disservice if I never fly. That God put me on the earth as a winged creature. I must fly. For many people, a lot of the clients I've worked with and so many beautiful people that I meet, it's them believing the part of them that knows they were born to fly. And the pain is a liar. The pain is telling you you'll never fly. That doesn't mean you'll never fly. The pain is telling you that you'll find a way to be grounded forever. That doesn't make it true.
When I was a kid back in 1989, a friend of mine named Eric got Jordan 4s.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking as a kid, oh my God, Eric is going to fly. Eric's going to fly. I mean, that's just a fact. You know, thank you, Nike. Thank you, Gatorade. Thank you, those that marketed MJ. And as an adult, I remember getting my very first pair of Jordan 4s, thinking, okay, this is my moment. Putting them on. It's going to happen. I'm going to be able to fly like MJ. And I was so disappointed that I couldn't fly. Somehow my jumper didn't become sick, and somehow my fadeaway didn't somehow magically become even better. None of that happened. It was very disappointing. So I'm going to write Nike a letter, I think, and tell them how disappointed I am. Because I feel like I got sold a bag of fool's gold.
I think that's what happens to a lot of people emotionally, is that we've all been sold the American dream, the house with the white picket fence, and there's like a picture that we think is happiness. You get the job promotions, you earn the accolades, you get the riches, all these things happen, and you go, this is it? This is all we have? There's a story I'll share with you. In my 20s, I was a professional musician. I was at the point where I was literally making music with Emmy winners and Grammy winners, and I was traveling the country a little bit, and I was just really having a lot of those experiences that people wish they could have or dream of having in the music industry. I wasn't famous by any means. I wasn't rich. I wasn't all that stuff. But I was accomplishing really amazing things. And I remember one day I was standing on a stage. We're talking, there's thousands of people on the 4th of July weekend. They've just done fireworks. I'm standing on this big stage, thousands of people in front of me. You can see the haze from the fireworks kind of falling. There's light falling on this. My band, we're playing and everybody's dancing on the stage. People are dancing in front of the stage. And I feel empty, absolutely empty. And I'm thinking to myself, my dream has come true. This feels like an empty nightmare. Where did I go wrong? And over the last really decade of my life, I have realized the dream itself was never supposed to be entertaining the people, selling the records, that's not the real American dream. God's dream is for you to look in the mirror and realize the beautiful creation that you are. To realize that if you never play the music, if you never record another podcast, if you never make it to another North Carolina game, none of those things happen, probably be better off. If you never experience the beautiful things, your life is already perfect. Your life is already so many great things. You've made an impact. You've made a difference, brought something to the world that you may not even understand what you've brought. For some people, they're like, Maurice, I don't understand what you're talking about. And that's confusing. I want you to imagine that I was standing on that stage thinking that the microphone in front of me was giving my life value. I had got to that stage thinking that me as a musician gave my life meaning. My life was meaningful without the music, and my life had worth without the microphone. And I think that that's what my kids see when they look at me and see daddy. They don't care about daddy the podcaster, daddy the speaker, daddy the author, just daddy. My wife doesn't care about my accolades. She's proud of me. She just sees a man of God that she loves. And if I never accomplish anything else, good. And I think that that's where we have to get in life as, yes, I'm going to accomplish things. Yes, I'm going to work hard. Yes, I'm going to do the very best I can in this life. My value is established before I do any of that stuff. Those things don't give me the value. That's the lesson.
I'm trying to chase the value.
Yes.
I'm trying to think somehow if I have the whatever, fill in the blank of whatever, That's going to validate me. That's going to make that moment of the, aha, I've arrived. Ta-da, here I am. Now you can love me more because I'm on that stage. I'm behind a microphone. I'm whatever. Again, insert the value, whatever. And what I'm hearing you say is it doesn't come from that.
At all. Well, think about the room you're sitting in. This is the greatest analogy. You're in your shoe shack. They're seeing the symbolism of your fandom. They see the shoes, they see the jerseys, they see the towels, they see the things, and they think, wow, that's what makes him a fan. Oh, no, that stuff doesn't make you a fan. Without any of that stuff, you're a huge fan. You have the heart of a fan. You have the belief system of a fan. You have the habits of a fan. Everything about your life is a fan. All of the stuff that people can see is a representation of what already exists. Think about that for a second. Your fandom is just something like you just wake up in the morning excited that North Carolina is going to beat that other team. You just wake up feeling it. That's what, okay, well, our lives work in the same way. Riches, the cars, the fortune, the fame, the Instagram shots, the whatever it is that people are seeing, that stuff is just a representation of the beauty of your life. That is just a representation of the strength and the passion and the accolade. You don't need those things. They just show other people what already exists. And when we can understand that, we put less pressure on the other thing.
I'm going to flip the coin for a second. Remembering as a kid, the movie Dumbo. Just to help, there was a mouse. I had to look him up, make sure I got his name right. Timothy Q. Mouse. It's been a minute. Timothy Q. Mouse rolls into Dumbo and he gives him this magic feather and he's like, okay, now you can fly. Now you have the confidence. Now, without this thing, you can't fly. And then all of a sudden, spoiler alert, Dumbo gets in the big show and he's ready to go and he's ready to fly and he loses the feather. Timothy Mouse is like, no, Dumbo, you never needed it. You never needed it. You could have done it all along. Again, so many times we're in the hunt, we're in the search, we're in Amazon, we're in Costco, we're in eBay, we're maybe at Walmart, for goodness sakes, we're at Kroger's.
All of the above.
Buckeye Market, Quality Market. Okay, those two names don't go together, Buckeye and Quality. Just like Duke and Quality. They don't go together.
Woo, took a shot.
We're in the hunt for that feather. And if we don't find it, we somehow think, I can't exist without the feather.
You're right. You can't exist without the feather. I think that the problem is not the search for the feather. The problem is where we search for the feather. There was a feather. It was on the inside of Dumbo, and the feather is on the inside of you. And so we go looking externally to find the things that already exist internally.
How did you stop that search?
Acceptance. You have to accept that what is. There is greatness in me, whether you know it or not. There is greatness in me, whether I accept it or not. There is greatness in me, whether I accomplish the things that the greatness has the potential to accomplish or not. The greatness is in there. The talent is in there. The potential is in there. We all have something we bring to the table that is unique or important or critical. Not everybody's meant to be a speaker. Not everybody's meant to be a podcaster, but you have something in you that is great. But what I had to do was accept it. Accept the challenge to fine tune it, to cultivate it. Okay, I will no longer look outside of myself for something that's already inside. I will just cultivate the gift. I used to think the gift was just my skills. Well, the gift is also your ability to see clearly. So will you cultivate your ability to appreciate today? Today is a gift. You and I, we jumped on a call together. We talked for like 10 minutes before we even got started, and we laughed and we joked. I will remember our banter more than I'll remember this actual podcast because it was special. You were being the real you and you kind of let your guard down, so it made me be the real me and I let my guard down. Those moments are critically important to life, and they only happen when we lean all the way into the moment and just throw away caution. With reckless abandon, we just go all out and say, this is the real me. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but I'm bringing me to the table. I'm bringing me to the party. That's what you're doing today, and that's what I'm doing. And when we do those things, incredible things happen. My advice, my wisdom, my whatever to people who are listening is, whoever the real you is, lean in, accept that it's real, and bring it to the table.
How do you feel about hazelnut coffee?
I actually like it, but that's because I don't like the actual flavor of coffee. I'm not really like a manly man coffee drinker. Just give it to me black. I can't do that. So give me the hazelnut and judge my life afterwards.
So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, we were at a men's retreat at church. Well, men's advance because our men don't retreat at our church. We advance.
Let's go.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, by the way.
I kind of love it.
Well, you can use it out there. It's fine. We don't have a trademark on it. Coffee flavors and whatnot's there. And so I go to grab hazelnut because that's my favorite flavor of coffee. I mean, I can drink coffee black. I am a real man. Okay. Just saying.
Oh, congratulations.
You're welcome.
hair on the chest.
Start putting some in. And he looks at me, he goes, you know what, Neil? I think you're the only one today that's used hazelnut. I was like, great, more for me. And he said, it got me thinking. He goes, you're kind of like hazelnut. I was like, what? And he goes, not everyone really likes you. Not everyone is gonna like who you are. And I was
that
like,
part.
And so I think you should really embrace this idea that you're a hazelnut. You're kind of nutty. I
kind of like that. Yeah.
And he goes, the reality is he goes, not everyone's going to like your flavor. What do you mean? And he goes, well, think about like vanilla. Let's take away hazelnut. Let's think about vanilla. He goes, not everyone likes vanilla ice cream. I'm like, who doesn't love ice cream? Who cares the flavor? You mean to tell me that you would eat banana flavored ice cream? I'm like, well, no, there's limitations. He's like, again, because it's a flavor you don't like. And he said, and can you be okay if somebody doesn't like your flavor?
Man.
Well, yeah, I think so. He goes, you think so or you know so? Well, no, I know so. And he goes, then act like it. Rob, you're dumb, okay? We're not friends anymore. But it's the idea, again, that if we spend so much time trying to be the flavor we're not meant to be, if we spend so much time trying to be the thing we're not meant to be, I feel like we're chasing the wind. I feel like we're, again, trying to grab onto a vapor or like dry ice as it's coming out in its smoke form. Thinking of you on the stage, I'm sure you had some smoke going on. I just have a feeling it's impossible.
It is. Let's go back to the very beginning of our conversation about taking flight. And we were talking about how there are certain people who are meant to be on your flight. And you said, what if you are not a commercial airliner? What if you are the private plane? Not everybody can afford to fly on your jet. And some people, if they see a private jet, it is the focus of ire and rejection and judgment and all these negative things. So if you were created to be a private jet, though someone values you so highly that they will store up and level up just to get inside of you, someone else will reject you because of what you stand for. And you have to be okay with being the private jet. Somebody needs to sit in these seats, and somebody will value these seats. And the right people that not only do they value it, but they'll pay extra to be inside of it. And I think that that's what it is for us to be all the way hazelnut. You asked me a question. Did you hear how quickly I gave you an answer? What do you think about hazelnut? I gave an answer fast because I don't like the flavor of coffee. Hazelnut will make me drink it. For you and your faith, somebody doesn't want to talk about Jesus, doesn't want to talk about God, but they sit beside you at a North Carolina game and you open up the realm of possibilities for faith and conversation and all these other things because you're you and you're that flavor and that you have that character. And I think that we have to just own what it is that we've been created to be.
Love that a lot, my friend. Well, as we begin to make our way out of Akron, Ohio, by the way, I think it would be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge the fact that the greatest, well, maybe the second greatest basketball player ever to be created has come out of Akron. Can you settle this for me once and for all?
Yes.
Who is the greatest basketball player of all time? Is it the man from Wilmington, North Carolina, Michael Jeffrey Jordan? Or is it, I don't even know LeBron's middle name, or is it LeBron James?
I don't know what LeBron's middle name is either. I feel like that makes me, I hate this debate. Out of principle, I just always say LeBron because I feel like, he brought me a title. Let's be very clear. Okay? As a Cavs fan and a Cleveland fan, brought me the only title I've ever seen. So I have to, out of default, say LeBron. I will also say that one of the biggest mistakes that we make is comparing legend to legend, and it keeps us from appreciating the legend. And every time I go on ESPN or wherever and I read the comments under and people are slandering one or they're attacking the other, and I'm like, what is the point? Kobe was amazing, and Wilt was amazing, and Kareem was amazing, and Magic was amazing, and Larry was amazing, and all of these people are amazing. And I think, can you learn to just appreciate legend for what it is? Nobody who saw Michael Jordan play is going to not be awestruck by Michael Jordan. That was my childhood. I look at Michael Jordan and Hulk Hogan the same way. By the way, I also look at Mike Tyson that way. And at some point, Mike Tyson started getting beat. But in my brain, he's still the greatest boxer of all time since I didn't get to see Muhammad Ali box. And so at the end of the day, we will all lift up the lore of a person. Can you hold Michael Jordan in your heart as the greatest and also enjoy the greatness of LeBron? And I think you should be able to in year 20, where he's no longer going to be the best in the game and art. You acknowledge greatness 20 years in, still averaging 25 points a game. Can you just go, wow, and let it be that, and let that be enough that he doesn't have to come off the bench? And if he does come off the bench, the team is worse in year 20? Can we just go there? And I think that if you could do that, that would help you not feel like you're competing against the neighbor down the street who has a bigger truck than you and has a couple more dollars in the bank. You you guys aren't even in the same business, and his wife doesn't like him, and yours likes you. You got some wins, and he's got some wins. You know what I mean? And you're doing some good things, and he's doing. We're not competing, bro. You're in your greatness, I'm in my greatness, and we're both not great enough yet. We both have to get better. And I think that when we live life that way, then life's better.
And I love that you wove it into what we're talking about today. That was really good, by the way. Very well done. When I hear that great debate, to me, it makes me sick because, again, why do we have to compare?
That part.
Why can't we just say amazing? Everybody can be amazing. It's like Oprah. You get a car. You get a car. You get a car.
Yes.
Everyone can be amazing.
Yes.
LeBron has done some things Jordan could never even touch. Yes, I said it. As a Carolina fan, I said it. There are things that Jordan did that LeBron will never do. 6 championships, 100%. Just saying.
Yep. Truth.
We get so wrapped up into trying to compare someone to someone else, and it is a foolish game.
Yes.
It's foolish.
I agree.
All right, well, help us with this. Where can folks connect with you? What's the best way? And how can you maybe help somebody who's listening that wants to carry this conversation outside of us?
Sure. You can find me, first of all, social media at Maurice F. Martin. That includes my YouTube at Maurice F. Martin. And then go to my website. That's really the best way. MauriceFMartin.com. If you go there, maybe you're somebody, you've been suffering from being burned out, imposter syndrome, something like that. I've got free workshops there, free opportunities to actually get a clarity call with me if you want to have a conversation and figure out how I can best serve you. Maybe you're somebody, you have a business or a school, an organization, you'd like for me to speak at it. There's a form there. Fill it out. I'd love to come out to your organization, even out in North Carolina, and speak, or out in Oregon. So I would love to help you and serve you in any way I can.
You can go to North Carolina, and then I'll meet you there. It's fine. We can go
Beautiful. Beautiful.
We're just going to stay about 8 miles down the road, wherever we're at.
Fair, but I may make my own journey at some point.
I have this sneaking suspicion. Somebody's hearing you right now, and they're the skeptic in the room. They're the doubter in the room. They're saying, okay, that's really cool.
There's a lot of words that we use that are 4-letter words. When we get into words like fine, that's one of them. So usually when people go, I'm fine, I'm going to stay this way for the rest of my life. Things aren't supposed to be stuck and stagnant. So if water is stagnant, that's when the water starts to develop diseases and bad things happen to the water. My thing is this: what is it about you that makes you feel like you shouldn't be growing or changing or evolving or maturing? And a lot of times that thing is fear, that we have grown comfortable in where we've been and who we've become because we're not exactly sure that we're capable of being anything else. I would just challenge the person who says that. Really search your heart, search your mind, search your soul, and ask yourself, are you sure that you're really fine? Are you fine or are you comfortable? And here's something else. I'm going to say one more thing because maybe this will help somebody. Sometimes people hear us on the other side of hard times and they hear us sounding like utopian. I was suicidal at 32. I was depressed for most of my life, anxious for most of my life, bitter, frustrated, agitated, angry, control freak, all these things. I'm not like the picture perfect man. I've made all kind of mistakes still. The difference between where I'm sitting today and where that individual may be sitting is that I actually said yes to a healing journey. And the healing journey exposes the things that you don't really know are affecting you. So the greatest thing you can do if you say, well, that's good for you, but I don't need it, is to ask yourself, are you sure? Are you sure is a great phrase. You go out to a bar, somebody says, are you drinking tonight? You say, no, I'm not drinking. They say, are you sure? You reconsider. When you say, I don't need to get any stronger, I don't need to get any healthier, I don't need to be better at it with my spouse, I don't need to be better with my kid, I don't need to communicate better, I don't need to love better, I don't need to forgive more. Are you sure? And if you will ask yourself the question, are you sure? Sometimes that question leads you to the truth. No, I'm not really sure. I'm just uncomfortable. And so I would just hope that person would ask themselves, are you sure you're okay? If you are, then good for you. I'm happy for you. But if you're not, hit me up and let's talk.
Are you sure you're still a Duke fan?
You know, I really like Colorado a whole lot, you know.
What escaped that question?
I'm on the Coach Prime train, so, you know, I don't really have to be a Duke guy at this point in my life.
Listen, there's room on the Carolina wagon for you.
Now, see, that doesn't sound as appealing. It didn't really do it for me the same way. I have some preconceived biases to that.
I think you'd love Hubert Davis. He's way better than John Shire right now. Just saying, John Cryer, as we're calling him on our side.
Yeah, but I've got all the memories. I've got a lot of years of winning and national championships and Final Fours and Elite Eights. And
you want to talk about the Final Four? Caleb Love, just saying.
Not necessarily now. You know, I've got memories. They do me well.
We'll agree to disagree on that. Well, we do this thing at the end of the show. It's called Senseless. It's these 6 random questions. Don't worry, you don't have to answer all 6. I just happen to have a cup here to make it random. There's a die in there, as you can see in the camera there. I just happen to have this cup laying around the studio. I just was going to use that. I noticed you didn't bring a cup. We probably should tell people that, to bring a cup and a die. That'd be fun. Maybe we could do it together sometime. Maybe next season we'll work that out. So anyway, I'm going to roll for you because you're not here to roll for you. So I'm going to...
They're not.
You're going to trust that I can roll a good number for you. Look at that, number 4.
Beautiful.
Notice what color it was?
I did, in fact, notice it. I noticed the cup as well.
Just want to acknowledge the things. Got to get the sponsorships in there. All right, so here we go. Senseless is this. Number 4, what do you love and dislike most about flying?
Ooh, I love how long it takes to get to your destination, because it would take so much longer in a vehicle. And what I dislike is the turbulence, because I'm always like, is this it? This is how I go? Way too emotional, but it's all on the inside because I try to keep a straight face.
That's good. Well, man, I just want to say thanks so much for being here today. I really loved most of what you said. Like 98% of what you said was really profound. And I think if somebody re-listens again and really gleans from the 98%, I really think they could see a different life and really see a different view on life. Again, if they ask that question, are you sure? I think that's a profound statement. Just want to say thanks so much for being here today, man. Really appreciate you and what you shared.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a beautiful experience, and we've been looking forward to this for a while. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, the seatbelt light is on. Please make sure it is fastened as our team makes their way through the cabin area. They're going to pick up your trash, look around your area, make sure you have all your belongings. Of course, make sure that tray table is in the upright position in your seat likewise. I got to ask you this question, though, before we get out of here and before we land this plane and get out of here for the day. And that's this question. What baggage did you bring on the flight today? See, there's this weird movie that I found the other day. I'm embarrassed to admit that I've watched it. I might, in fact, lose my man card. George Clooney's in it, not an action flick. The movie's called Up in the Air. And by the way, Anna Kendrick's in it. For those Pitch Perfect fans, she's in it. Small role. Jason Bateman, I think he's in everything. He's in it too. George Clooney is this traveler, and he spends so much time in the air, traveling around, firing people, wrecking the movie for you. Talks about in the movie, he's trying to be a motivational speaker when he's not traveling around the country firing people. And he talks about this backpack. And here's the funny part is, Maurice didn't know that. I'm wondering about this for you is, what's in your backpack? What's in your luggage? What is this stuff that you continue to carry around with you? Is it way overweight? Are you just hoping that maybe TSA will pull it aside for you and make you take it away? Is that your hope? Is it somebody will come along and tell you, no more, it's overweight, you can't take that with you? Well, today, guess what? I think that happened. If you really heard it, I think that happened. And so I'm curious as for you, again, as we get out of here, is what are you going to allow to be finally removed from your baggage so you can fly free and not have to worry any longer? Think about that today as you get out of here. Remember this, do not forget, remember when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to say thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned till next week when we fly. Walk in other people's shoes.